weirdest thing to me is like there are so many people that come in and out of this movie at the beginning, just like,
Yeah,
and
dude,
like there's a there's a red devil guy. I mean, the first lady's like, I seen you in that Time magazine or something like that, you know?
Yeah,
And
they
I'm like,
did.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I thought they did a good job of one at least, because one that's actually the first thing that my wife said when she watched was like, they're not like weirded out that there's a red guy with a giant
Right.
rock arm.
And shaved down horns on his head. Stretches in. Welcome back to the Movie Dads Podcast. We're your hosts, Howie.
I'm Kyle.
That is Kyle. Kyle, we're back. Episode number 63. The movie.
Let's pull my computer down.
That's some movement.
I don't got a lot on this leash. I need a longer cable.
Episode 63 of the Movie Dads Podcast. The 2024 superhero horror film, Hellboy the Crooked Man. I guess you could say it's a big premiere movie of the week, even though it's super low budget and went straight to digital.
Yeah.
But
I got kind of a vibe that there were a lot of people that were like, oh, this movie dropped. I had a lot of vibe from people who are like, I'm not going to pay $20 to watch that movie,
Yes.
but I'm excited, but I want to see it. It was kind of the vibe that I got.
I got on Prime Video and it was like $20 Ultra HD, $15 standard def. And I'm like, standard it is.
I didn't even notice that.
Keep that $5.
Smart.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about the movie later, so I won't jump into it. But yeah, look at us. We're back. We've been gone forever.
I know. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But first, if you're watching this on YouTube, please click that like and subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Make sure you click the bell so you get notifications on when new episodes come out. If you're not watching us on YouTube, hopefully you're listening to us on one of many podcast networks we can find us on. Spotify, Amazon, Apple, iHeartRadio, bunch of others.
All of the podcast stuff.
All the podcast stuff. You can also find some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We're Movie Dads. We've got movie kids. So we took last week off because I couldn't record because I was in the Bahamas. Sorry about it.
NBD.
Really.
No big deal.
Sorry about it. I wasn't going to pay for the internet on the cruise ship. But yeah,
wait,
anyway,
they don't have internet on the cruise ship?
You do if you want to pay $20 per day per device, and it sucks.
Oh, that.
So I had it on my phone in case anybody like needed to get a hold of us, you know, because our kids we're going to get to that in a minute, but the kids were, but so it's $20 per day, and it's terrible internet. So
unbelievable.
Yeah,
that's
garbage.
What a freaking robbery.
Yeah, they get like $100 off you right away just for 5 days.
That's crazy.
But
how was it though? There was a world freaking ending hurricane. So
yeah, so we sailed out of Miami on Monday of last week, keeping a close eye on Hurricane Kurt, actually, which was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean because it was causing giant waves and swells and riptides in the Bahamas. So we kept an eye on that. But then, of course, while that was happening, Hurricane Milton took off like a freaking rocket out of the Gulf of Mexico. So on our way back, we actually did run into Hurricane Milton and got a lot of waves and rain. The ship stayed to the south, though, so we just kind of caught the bottom edge. We didn't get through the thick of it and stuff. But yeah, it was a good trip. Like the entire time we were in the Bahamas, the days we were there, it was hot and sunny. So, nice. I mean, it was windy, but it was fine. So it was a good trip. It was a good trip. Just me and the wife. So we took the kids up to Minnesota. They stayed with my my dad and stepmom up in Minnesota for the entire week. They got like spoiled freaking rotten because they were on vacation too.
Of course.
They got to go to like Mall of America. They got to spend time at the Great Wolf Lodge for a couple days. Then they got to go up to their house and they played miniature golf. They went out to dinner every night. They had freaking ice cream and they went shopping. They all got new clothes. They got new toys. It's freaking ridiculous.
A week with grandparents.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah. Reagan said something like she's like, I bet Des has diabetes now. And I'm like, he might. He just ate sugar. Diabetes. He ate sugar for 3 meals a day for a full week.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, it was a good week. That's why we didn't record. I really didn't have the capabilities of doing so. It's like when I went to Canada, it's like I can't record. The internet is not capable of doing so, you know?
I am
it's
on
the same
Mars.
thing. It's the same thing in the cruise ship. Like I can get text messages. I can't record a video. No way.
Yeah.
So
nice. Little vacay without the kids too.
Oh,
Jesus Christ. Love that.
To get the drink package. Get the drink package every time.
So, oh my gosh, Aaron Judge finally just hit a home run. We've been waiting for 9 games. Sorry, the Yankee playoff game is on. So I've had a bet on him to hit a home run for like 7 straight games, and he finally did it. Anyways, for me this past week, well, upcoming actually, we are going on a trip to Minnesota / the Great Wolf Lodge and the Mall of America. So I did not know that I knew Steph had said your littles were up at like your grandparents, but I didn't know that's what they were doing. So that's kind of cool. So we're gonna go trade off. So that's coming up. We're leaving on Thursday. Great Wolf Lodge is we always go during Halloween time, so they do a bunch of like literally like Halloween trick-or-treating. There's a huge like scavenger hunt thing. So it's a ton of fun. I'm excited for that. The kids are losing their minds. This past week, we all caught the Black Plague. There is a GI bug going around like Omaha that like primarily hit our daycare, and they sent a note out of like, everybody get out of the way. Hunker down, buckle up was pretty much the email we got. And we didn't think that it was going to be us, but it was definitely us. So we almost died, but we survived. We got on the other side of it. I feel like every year between now and Christmas for the last 3 years, it's happened. So, but we made it out on the other side, healthy enough to go cap off our flag football season this past weekend, and we won 60-0. We crushed another team. We literally beat every team in the league except the one team that we had to play 4 times. We played everybody else once. Yeah, we played everybody else once. Maybe I think we played one team twice, but I wasn't there for the first week. But we beat them that week. So this kid on my team, he is Darrelle Revis with Deion Sanders. He had 2 more pick sixes, and he had 4 of them last week. So this kid is just a monster. But anyways, so flag football season is done. I am going to be taking a break from coaching until probably next baseball season because I'm tied from it. So, but yeah, that's our week. Nothing too crazy, nothing wild. So I guess that let's just jump into my most excited segment, which every time I say that, I don't feel like that makes grammatical sense, but it's fine. This is our 6 to midnight. This is the part of the show where we talk about the things that get us up in the morning this week for nerd stuff. So nerd news, trailers, casting news, things like that, video games, whatever's on the docket that we're like nerding out about, we will talk about. So couple of, I feel like they're kind of follow-ups. It's like we talk about them an episode or 2 ago, and then boom, we get some more news.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, more news of like exactly what we were like speculating. So,
look into the crystal ball.
Yeah, we were just talking about the new Lanterns show, the Max show that's coming out. They had casted Kyle Chandler as Old Man Green Lantern. So
Hal
Jordan, which cool. Love that. I love that they wanted to get Jon Stewart in. I grew up with the Justice League cartoon. I don't know if you watched much of that, but it's like in technically the same world as Batman the Animated Series. Justice League cartoon was awesome, and Jon Stewart Green Lantern was the main lantern in that. So I'm excited that we've got that is coming up, but they finally announced casting. You had said kind of timing of like Rebel Ridge was so
Right.
freaking dope, and it was just this out of left field Aaron Pierre, who wasn't even the original casted actor in Rebel Ridge,
Right.
ended up making the movie just incredible.
Yeah, he was awesome in it.
And you had kind of just joked like he'd actually be pretty cool. He'd be a cool Jon Stewart.
He'd be a cool
like,
Jon Stewart. Wouldn't he be a cool superhero?
They should do that. And at that point, there had been there was not a breath of a conversation about him being that. We thought it was casted with a different actor, and then boom, they came out with that. So Aaron Pierre will be our Jon Stewart, and I think that's a good casting. I'm excited to see.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. So that's we finally have our lanterns. Finally,
all three.
So I know. Oh yeah, we've got.
And they're all three are fucking fire.
Mm-hmm. The like behind the scenes stuff we've seen from Superman of Kyle. Is it Kyle Rayner? No, who's
Nathan Fillion.
No, Nathan Fillion. But what's the Green Lantern? It's not Kyle Rayner. He's playing
Guy Gardner.
Guy Gardner, yes. Which I think he was popular in the early 90s, I think, as in the comics.
So I remember most Guy Gardner was popular around the time of the Death of Superman, because he's in the Death of Superman comics, because he's part of that current Justice League at that time with like Booster Gold and freaking Blue Beetle and stuff.
I would say like generally he's like the most hated Green Lantern, or at least he's like the most annoying one.
He's the most annoying because he's super cocky in like not a good way, like Hal Jordan is. And he's got that dumbass bowl cut.
He's got a bowl cut, which I used to rock, by the way, back in my day between 0 and 7. I was a bowl cut kid.
So you and I rocked the bowl cut at the same time. I was older. There was a time where bowl cuts
that was a thing. Yeah,
that was okay.
Which is when that character was created, I believe.
Yes,
so
that's true. That's true.
But did not age well. Anyways, obviously I love Nathan Fillion. I think he's the best Nathan Drake that we've ever got, and that wasn't even a real movie. But what I was saying is, in the behind the scenes stuff for Superman, his Green Lantern suit is like a leather jacket. It just looks
like a sleeveless one.
Yeah, it just like doesn't look. Yeah, he just doesn't look like a Green Lantern. So, anyways, like I can't speculate on that, but the actors themselves will be great. I'm excited for it. So
I saw one of those like pictures, and it was like, the horse, and it's like the drawings of the horse, and it was all three lanterns, and it was the fire horse the whole way across.
Oh, cool. All the way across.
That's pretty. It is, because Kyle Chandler's pretty awesome too. So I'm pretty happy with that entire casting, considering all the crap we've dumped on DC and their odd choices. Okay, so like we were talking, I think yesterday, like Brave and the Bold might not happen. We just because it was announced doesn't mean it might not happen. It might not happen if the script's not good enough. Like, what does that mean? James Gunn's like, because it was announced doesn't mean it's going to happen. Okay,
what a weird thing to say.
Since when is that a thing?
Here's what I'll say too. James Gunn has. It's so fascinating how news of his DCU comes out. In that often it's some random comment that someone will ask on a random post, like not even like it's not even direct, like someone DM'd him. It's literally like a comment on a separate thing, which I may have commented 2 or 3 things trying to, hey, tell us more about Batman, just to see if he would answer. He never has, but he'll just randomly answer these questions, and like that was one of them where he was just like he was responding to someone's comment. Someone asked what live action is like in production right now, and he said he just said Superman and Supergirl, and then so then he says this random thing. Someone like responded to that about asking about Batman, and he's just like, just because we announced it doesn't mean that it's going to happen. It's like, Well, then why would you announce it? Well, you just then that tells me like, okay, the plans really weren't the long-term plan really wasn't in place. You were just, this is what we think we want to do, but if it doesn't seem cool. I think that also times up with our other comment we were talking about with Robert Pattinson, Batman, and that WB kind of wants, like, let's just freaking make him this universe's Batman. So it almost felt like that was kind of a way of saying, like, maybe that's what we're going to do. You're muted right now. I can't hear anything you're saying.
Sorry, I was coughing. Anyway, but yeah, I mean,
it's whatever.
It doesn't. It's whatever.
I have finally said, Jesus, take the wheel. I totally lost my mind about Superman's costume when he got unveiled, but I have officially said I'm excited for it. I'm letting go. I trust James Gunn. He has a lot of comics that he posts or shows of like what he wants to do with this Superman. And I think that's going to be awesome. So I'm excited for it. Last thing on that, they unveiled today of like picture of Superman with Krypto, Superdog, which I thought was a cool picture. It's like they're like sitting on the moon, basically looking down at Earth. It just, it gives you the vibe that it's going to be like a wholesome, just good guy Superman. So,
right.
Anyways, what else? What do you got? What you got for me?
Well, so first thing I was going to talk about. Well, I did want to say. So I got my mask signed, right? Like 2 weeks ago when we went. I got my 4th figure, so I actually have the figure for all the Jasons that signed it now.
That's an epic shelf.
I was pretty excited about that.
That's pretty freaking
and then
cool.
Somebody, while I was literally, I'm on the cruise ship, and somebody texts me and they say, "Go buy this now."
And yeah, let's go. He got it.
I'm like, okay. Like,
this guy right here. This is what he was just holding in his hand.
It was $50,
dude. That's a steal. Remember, like when they originally unveiled the Flash version, which was kind of color fucked up. I spent like 130. I remember. Ended up selling it to get this guy for like 80 at the time. But Amazon dropped it out of nowhere. I'm like, bro, you got to get it. And you've got the cowl coming at some point. So I think
that's supposed to ship this week. The cowl is
nice. So you're gonna have a good freaking Batman '89 setup. I'm excited.
Yeah. So I don't know where I'm gonna put the car yet.
Right under that, right by over your shoulder, right there.
Maybe.
Anyways,
that happened. I did want to say, we didn't even talk about this before the podcast, but they did announce some new figures from McFarlane did because, New York Comic Con's coming up. So they always announce a bunch of like really cool stuff. They got some cool those Marvel statues, like the 1/6 scale, 12-inch statues. They announced some new ones of those. They got the Wolverine with the Incredible Hulk and the claws reflection.
You've got to get that for your comic.
But I don't.
It looks so dope.
I got to take a break from buying stuff for a while. And then they did have the black suit Spider-Man from Amazing Spider-Man 300 cover. They announced
saw that today. I saw that.
And that's the first appearance of Venom. That one's pretty cool too. And then
it's cool because they have like the red and blue version so you could do both, which I think would be cool.
Right. And then they had a couple Superman figures they announced this week too, right?
Dude, yes.
Do you want to talk about this?
I've talked about multiple times, like we need a Batman vs. Superman Henry Cavill figure. They dropped way back when the Justice League movie came out. They finally did them. But at that point, they weren't really leaning into these figures being like really good.
Yeah.
And it was rubber cape. And there was like one red and blue for every 95 black suit Supermans. They did 100 freaking million of these black suit Supermans. I just want red and blue.
Yeah.
And so they finally announced, they had kind of teased earlier in the year, it had leaked that they were going to do it. So I knew eventually they'd announce it, but they announced we're getting a Henry Cavill soft goods cape with wiring in it. So you could pose it Superman, which I'm excited about, but they totally screwed us. They're putting it in a 2-pack with Doomsday, the Doomsday that no one cares about or wants. So this figure,
the General Zod cave troll is what I like to call it.
Yes, and it's not, oh my god, he looks exactly like the freaking cave trolls from Lord of the Rings. You are so right.
Yeah.
And he at some point eventually, like evolved into the spiky shoulders in the movie, then we're not even getting that. We're getting him he just looks like a bald Ninja Turtle without a freaking shell. So anyway, so now I'm going to end up spending like $80 freaking dollars on a figure that I have to have, because I have to have that Superman figure.
Right.
And they did it on purpose. But the other one today that I actually am more excited about is we're getting freaking classic Superman. We're getting the Superman that you grew up with, old Christopher Reeves Superman.
Yeah.
So,
which is pretty cool.
I think Soft Goods Cape looks just incredible. I'm so excited for those. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, just because we didn't talk about it ahead of time, but yeah, just touch on that. First thing I wanted to talk about is the Gore Fest, little Gore Fest movie that could. The number one movie in the country. Opening weekend did $18.3 million. Terrifier 3, number one independent movie, the highest grossing already unrated movie of all time, because it's not rated anything, because they wouldn't distribute it.
Oh wow, that's actually a cool little nugget.
Because it would never get an R rating.
Dude, talk about an indie film that is now officially a like major franchise.
So I got turned on to Terrifier when I came across it. Like, a buddy of mine texted me, he's like, "Have you ever heard of this Terrifier movie that's on Netflix?" And I was like, "Absolutely not. I don't know what you're talking about." He goes, "It's got a black and white painted clown." And I'm like, "Oh, I've seen it, but never thought to watch it." And he's like, "You need to watch it. Yeah. It's disgusting." And so I watched it and I was like, this is the most hilarious, gruesome thing I've ever seen in my life. And I even at one point said, "You need to watch it." I think you turned it off.
Yeah, this is nuts. When I think 2 had been out, and I had got the same text from you, like, "Dude, you have to watch this movie." And I started number 1 and was just like, "Holy shit, I cannot watch this." Like,
it's insane.
But now I need to go back and get through them.
Well, so I went to see number 2 in the theater when it came out a couple years ago, and it was super limited release. Like, it was, they weren't even sure it was going to make it a theatrical release. It was a Kickstarter funded movie, because there was this cult following for the first one, because it got an audience on Netflix. So the second one ended up grossing like $15 million its entire theatrical run. It was only supposed to be 2 weeks, but people kept going to see it. Not when I went and saw it. There was only like 4 people in the theater, but
it's pretty good money for 2 weeks.
Well, it cost $250,000. So then it ended up making $15 million, because after 2 weeks it had already made like 3 or 4. So they left it in the theater. Yeah. And it kept making money. Like, it kept growing, and it had like tremendous reviews. I think the second one's pretty high on Rotten Tomatoes. I won't say what, just in case we talk about it later. And then this one was a budget of like $2.5 million, right? That wasn't funded by a studio; it was privately funded. And opening weekend, it makes over $18 million, and it's the number one movie in the country. And it only played on like 2,100 theater screens. Like, most wide releases are like 4,400 now. Yeah, and it played on 21, like half of what a normal. Yeah, half, and it still made $18 million. I went and saw it opening weekend as soon as we got back into town. It's insane. It's gory. And people literally did walk out of the theater I was in. Like, after
I saw that people were posting that people were walking out.
Yeah, and they did.
Just because it was so uncomfortably gory?
Yes, because it is that disgusting.
Nice.
It's shock value. And I actually saw somebody on social media say, "Guys, it's so over the top. It's almost comical, because it's so absurd." Yeah, and it is.
That's what they're going for.
It's exactly what it is. It's just twisted and violent, and just some of the most, like, anything your dark imagination could come up with. They're like, we're gonna try that as a kill, because we're crazy. But I just wanted to give a shout out to Terrifier 3.
Franchise to kick off spooky season,
and especially after like 2 weeks ago, I got my picture taken with old Art the Clown himself.
Okay, so I love that you mentioned that, because I was actually going to just talk about that. So you met him at this horror fest, Comic-Con for horror stuff.
Yep.
Where where something very not normal, the actor that portrays the character was in full costume, like full makeup, everything looks straight out of the movie. Which when you mentioned that, I was like, that's pretty fucking cool that he would do that.
Yep.
And people don't do that. Like, you're not getting freaking Pennywise the clown. You're not getting Skarsgård dressing up as Pennywise at a con. So I thought that was cool. And then like yesterday or the day before, there was a viral video because the movie's doing so good. Someone posted a video of him at a Comic-Con in full costume and was like, oh my God, so-and-so's in full costume. And he was like messing with people and kids and stuff. And it went viral. And I was like, oh, that's fucking cool. You got to see that in person. And that was before that went viral. So cool. I like him. I like that that franchise is taken off. I need to go and watch them all, force my way through it.
Prepare thyself.
So
you started, you didn't finish the first one though, right?
I made it probably like 30 minutes into the first movie.
So you didn't even get to the bad stuff.
I might have had it on. I think I had it on in the background. but I immediately was like, nah, I'm not going to focus on this because this is fucked up. I can't remember. It was like at a time where I had just maybe watched something scary. So I would put it on and was just like, all right, I need to do this. I need rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah.
Like, give me something happy.
We got out of the show. I took Reagan because of course I did.
Of course. But she loves that.
She loves that. She loves that shit. So we walk out and she's like, I need to go watch like My Little Pony or something. And I'm like, yeah, probably do. Nice. And I'm audibly laughing in the theater. And because it's hilarious.
He's supposed funny, to be like that.
But he's funny. Like some of the stuff he does is hilarious in the movie. And but then when he kills people, it's just the most horribly violent stuff ever.
If it even like graces a screen in our house, my wife is like, nope. Like, nope, get that creepy clown away.
What I'm saying, like, it's so over the top that it's comical. You and I talked about this just a few weeks ago, like when we did The Mist. There are a couple movies with scenes with like kids and stuff that it's tough to watch. Like the end of The Mist is tough. When Halloween Ends first came out, that opening scene bothered me a lot where the kid dies. Like that bothered me because it was so bad.
Yeah. Is that the one he falls over the stairs? Or something?
Where the kid hits him with the door and he falls over the railing. It's terrible. But like Terrifier 3, there's stuff with kids, but it's so obscene or absurd. It didn't bother me whatsoever. And it's just because it's like it's so over the top. It's fake. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's not where, the kid gets hit with a door and falls over a railing. and now I'm going to be like, every time I'm like a door stuck, I'm going to be thinking about that scene from that movie and I'm going to kill some kid with it. It's totally Terrifier's just got this like vibe that it's so over the top. There's no way.
I don't think I've ever mentioned to you, like, I love the new It movies, but it's hard for me to go back and start them because of the beginning of number 1. It's like
with Georgie. Yeah,
it's Georgie. So hard to watch. So anyways, love that. What you had a couple other things, right? Or was that?
Yeah. So a couple other things I want to talk about. We've got a Voltron movie, live action, coming out. Voltron was like a huge part of my childhood in the 80s. Like Voltron, I remember when Mighty Morphin Power Rangers came out and I was like, that's just a Voltron ripoff. Stupid. Because I was such a Voltron fan. I watched the show with the lions and they made the giant Voltron robot in space. And then Netflix came out with a series like called Voltron Defender of the Universe, like in the 2016, and it rocked hard. And I watched every season, every episode of that. I thought it was great. And they're making a Voltron movie, which is awesome in the first place. And then they go and cast Henry Cavill in the movie. I don't care who he plays. I hope he plays a bad guy, because I think that's where he'd fit the best.
Yeah. Because
it's usually like younger, it's like kids in the Voltron, right? Man, Sign me up. I'm ready to go.
I'm all in.
I was all in when you said
in.
live action Voltron movie. I don't care who's making it.
True.
I'm in. And then you say Cavill's going to be in it. Like, okay, them in.
Amen. So we're going to get him in Warhammer, which is going to open the eyes to the world.
Well, just because that's announced doesn't mean it's going to get made.
God, what a weird thing that was. Obviously Henry Cavill can do no wrong in all of our eyes except WB with him as Superman. So I think I'm excited for that. Like I said, we're gonna get Warhammer. So I think there's a lot of people in the world who don't know anything about Warhammer.
And I think Amazon's doing both. I think isn't Amazon MGM doing Warhammer? And I know Amazon MGM is doing Voltron. So
nice. So they're like, dude, why would you not with Henry Cavill? Like, if you want this dude, well, I think that book movie was like a red herring of people thinking like, oh, this is going to be a good movie because Henry Cavill's in it. Argyle, that like nobody went and saw because it wasn't a nerd movie. I know, but we did that because we had to,
and we didn't like it.
Podcast that doesn't pay us.
Thank you.
But I think this like Warhammer and Voltron are going to be like fucking cool. Like it's going to jump off like some of these, you know, like the Batman, the Cape Crusader, or, you know, what other random new shows that people all of a sudden are all about because just, if you have the right character, like The Witcher, when The Witcher was coming out, people were like, not a lot of people know about The Witcher unless you're a gamer, but
or you read European fantasy novels,
fucking Swedish or Polish, like
somewhere. That's why I said European, so I didn't offend anybody.
But because book talk and like high fantasy smut books are in, and Henry Cavill's in leather with a sword with a deep voice, there's a lot of people that watch The Witcher. So I hope in those franchises cases they don't do what The Witcher did, and they actually like let Henry cook, like let him do the things he wants to do. He's a fan of the stuff. He wants to keep it direct. So nice. Okay, Voltron, Mr. Cavill. What else you got?
Last thing, just because it's spooky season and I wanted to talk about it. Variety released a list of the 100 greatest horror movies of all time per Variety. And I actually like Variety as an entertainment news source. They usually have a lot of good information. I was offended by this list in more ways than one. And there are some major issues with it. So I just wanted to touch on a few of them. So again, I'm not going to go into a ton of detail because it's 100 freaking movies. So some of the things that I thought were terrible, just hear me out here. First off, Suspiria was at number 99, the original Italian Suspiria, which if you've never seen it, I completely understand why, because it's Italian, but it is a classic in horror movies, and it's at number 99. In front of it is The Human Centipede Part 2 at number 92 on the list. And that is a franchise that has no place on being anywhere on 100 greatest horror movies of all time list.
You don't think number one doesn't?
I don't think so. If any of them were on the list, that would be the one that would be. Number 2 and number 3 have no place being on that list whatsoever.
Have you watched those two?
Yeah, I've watched all of them.
No, not the Human Centipede.
There was. Listen, man, I watched some weird shit. So, yeah. Nightmare on Elm Street came on the list at number 74. Way too low.
Whoa.
Yeah, terrible.
Way too high, right? We want it to be lower.
Yes, I meant too far back on the list. Anyway, Sixth Sense was at number 68. Again, I feel like it should be higher. Maybe
top 50?
Top 50? Yeah, top 50. The one that offended me the most at number 46 was The Thing at 46. Listen, I think it's the greatest horror movie of all time. My opinion, it absolutely should at least be in the top 20 on anybody's list. 46 is ridiculous. All right.
What's the top 5 that they've got?
I'm gonna get there. This one I knew would piss you off. Evil Dead Part 2 was at number 34. And I know how much you love that franchise. I know you do.
Well, I know the world loves it. I just, I'm just like, meh.
So Friday the 13th didn't make the list at all. Not even the
Not one of
original.
them?
Not a one.
Oh,
Not even the original.
oh,
So Nightmare on Elm
man.
Street says 74. Scream's at 25. Wow. I would never put Scream
Wow.
above Nightmare
Over
on Elm
any of
Street.
the movies that we've talked about in
Never put
this
it
last
above.
5 minutes.
It's nuts,
What?
right?
Over the thing?
Yeah. Oh, Thing was 46. I don't even
Sixth
start.
Sense? Like,
Yeah. Scream was at 25. Now I was happy. Blair Witch came in at number 24, which I think is good because I like that movie. I think it was very well done. All right.
if
So
they have Psycho within the top 5, I'm going to walk out of this podcast.
It is.
Get out of here.
It's in the top 5. All right, here's the top 10. Top 10. 10 is Carrie. Number 9 is Blows My Mind. Number 9 is Sallow or 120 Days of Sodom. If you don't know what that movie is, look it up and you will understand why it has no place being in the top 10 on this list.
Oh my God.
Frankenstein's at number 8. Audition's at number 7, which was surprising. Audition's a Japanese horror movie. I think I've asked you if you've seen it before. It's great. I can't believe it's top 10, but I'm okay with it. Night of the Living Dead is at number 6. Rosemary's Baby's at number 5. I never was a big Rosemary's Baby fan. I never got into it. Jaws is number 4. Cool.
Okay. Yep.
Psycho's number 3. The Exorcist is number 2.
Psycho is not the number 3 greatest horror movie of all time.
Psycho's at number 3. The Exorcist is at number 2. And I was extremely surprised at number 1, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that wild?
Number 1 greatest horror movie of all time. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Above Halloween.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, I'm still upset Psycho's in it. I will never think that movie was interesting.
I get it. I know. God. I know where you come from.
Wow, that's interesting.
It's a wild list.
I was looking at Metacritic for that wasn't greatest horror movies. It was just like top horror franchises. And it was out of like 36. It was a really random list. And Friday the 13th was number 36. Like, I'm like, what? 36 horror franchises of all time? When you say that, you're thinking, what's the most like memorable, or like when you think of a horror movie, what are the ones you think of? That is in the top 4. So I get it that most of those movies are not good. They're just they're schlock. They're fun. They're It is what it is. But the first one usually is well received. Yeah,
and you would think it would be on the top 100. You think it would be on the top 100 list. Now, I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth because I think last year we did a list and it was the most overrated horror movies of all time. And I think we both had the original Friday the 13th on there.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't overrated because it didn't even make the list. So
wild. Yeah. Fascinating.
Anyway, that's it. That's all I got.
Look at that. 40-minute, 6 to midnight. This is what happens when we're gone. This was good spooky conversation. We're getting spooky season. So well, why don't you take us into
I want to make sure you didn't have anything else, so I didn't know if you got into all of it. So anyway, that takes us into our small premiere movie of the week. Streaming low budget movie. The 2024 superhero horror film Hellboy, the Crooked Man. This movie was released straight to digital. Like we said, you can buy it on ultra high def for $20 or standard definition for $15. Standard definition, I think, is still like it's 1080p, so it's not that bad. Yeah. This movie was directed by Brian Taylor, written by Taylor along with Christopher Golden and Mike Mignola. Also co-wrote the script, which he's the creator and writer of the Hellboy comic books. He got a story by credit for Golden Army.
Oh,
but
sweet.
This is the first time he actually was credited as writing the movie. So that was
what's the director done before?
Brian Taylor. You know? So Brian Taylor, I think he did. I'll look that up in a minute. But the cast is Jack Kesey as Hellboy, Martin Bassendale as the Crooked Man, Adeline Rudolph as Bobby Joe Song, Jefferson White as Tom Farrell, Joseph Marcel as Reverend Watts, and Leah McNamara as Effie Cobb. Movie was filmed with a $20 million budget. which I was surprised. I didn't think it would be that much.
Yeah, that was way higher than what I thought.
I agree. But yeah, so $20 million budget. It did release theatrically in some markets, but straight to streaming in the United States. And it was filmed as director Brian Taylor said he wanted to reset the film series based on the two previous series, the obviously Ron Perlman and the David Harbour, because he wanted to depict a younger and wandering version of Hellboy.
Yeah,
which I think they did a good job of. So the movie kind of starts. you get a vibe for the feel of the movie right away. Like it is kind of filmed almost in that guerrilla style where the camera is kind of moving around all the time, kind of catching different angles. It's not. You can tell there are budgetary constraints, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it starts off. They're in a train, and it's Hellboy and it's Agent Song, they're all part of the paranormal group. Whatever the acronym is that works for the government, but they're the paranormal ones.
Like Paranormal Bureau of Investigation or something like that.
Right. So they're transporting a poisonous spider that basically they think is possessed by some kind of like demonic something or another, right?
Yeah.
They have it sedated. They're on a train. They're going through the Appalachian Mountains, and they've got to deliver it to, I don't remember what the name of the town is, but they got to get it delivered so they can research it more and figure out what's going on with the spider. Hellboy starts to like immediately. There's a third person on the train. I should say that it's like a regular FBI guy. Right? Nobody cares, right? He doesn't last long. Get to that. But basically Hellboy starts to, he keeps saying he's hearing something. Does anybody else hear that? And he sensed there's something wrong outside. And then all of a sudden this spider breaks through this box, and it's this giant, I mean, it's very like Harry Potter, giant spiders coming at you kind of deal. And it's like growing. You see it grow. And it immediately like bites off the dude's head that the other agent guy bites his head off. And then Hellboy starts fighting it. Ends up knocking their train car down the side of a mountain, which they live, of course. And spider gets away, right? After a big long fight. And they're now trapped in the middle of the woods, and they got to find a way out. Basically, Hellboy and Agent Song find a cabin. And of course, the weirdest thing to me is like there are so many people that come in and out of this movie at the beginning, just like, and like there's a red devil guy. I mean, the first lady's like, I seen you in that Time magazine or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I thought they did a good job of one at least, because that's actually the first thing that my wife said when she watched, was like, they're not like weirded out that there's a red guy with a giant rock arm.
And shaved down horns on his head.
Yes. So it was very, the people that just show up at the beginning, so they stumble upon this cabin and are talking to this hillbilly family.
All right, you got a phone? Yeah, it's out back next to the color TV.
Yeah, that was actually kind of funny.
By the way, it's 1959, just so y'all know.
Yes. Okay. So I thought, it was cool that they had that little, line to basically point out that like the world knows about Hellboy at this point. He's out there. But I loved that this was set in that time period, like the 50s. Like it's not modern technology, which helps you understand a little bit more of like why they're stuck out in the forest. Why don't they just have a freaking, a jet just show up, satellite, people just show up and get them. The main like male character that is part of the group, Tom Farrell. Yeah. So Tom Farrell he's from this town or part of the Appalachian Mountains, but he's been away at war. And when Hellboy and this lady stumble upon this cabin, there's a kid who's bewitched on the floor, and Tom just randomly shows up, like just
At that
happens to
time.
walk in at the exact same time of like, I've been away for 30 years or 15 years or whatever it is. He's been away at war.
I can't remember how long they said. I would assume it's 1959, so I'd assume he was away at the Korean War.
Yeah, something like that.
Would make sense.
That was weird how he just randomly showed up. I will say this.
At that time. And he didn't notice that Hellboy was a demon with a tail. Nothing. He just walks in. He just walks in. He's like, that boy's bewitched. There's a devil guy right there. Like, you didn't notice that, dude? Like, everybody was more like awestruck that there was this half Asian gal with him.
Oh yeah, they did comment on that. You are Oriental, I think.
Yeah, and it's like that. He's a devil. Like, he's a red devil. That's weird. Okay.
Here's what I'll say. The vibe of this, where it's like Hellboy, he doesn't have his like full paranormal crew. He's just got his like Poindexter FBI agent lady who's more of like a researcher, I would say.
Yeah, she's a pencil pusher. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if I mentioned ever on the pod, but a couple months ago I stumbled upon one of the Hellboy like audiobooks and listened to it and just really enjoyed it. But this movie gave me way more of the vibes from the book than like the big like Guillermo del Toro movies. Those felt like big AAA, obviously bombastic, like epic movies, and this felt like a very small scale, like not detective, but like just more intimate story. Which
yes,
in the book that I had read, it was very similar in that he was like way out in the middle of the desert somewhere, like basically cut off from everybody. So I don't know. I really liked that vibe of this. I liked that it was small scale. They weren't globetrotting left and right. They were just in the mountains. So anyways, they're at the cabin.
Yeah, so it's a very short movie. So this plot line is going to go fast because there's not a lot to it. So Tom went off. Tom shows up. He's like, this kid's bewitched. I know who the witch is. Her and I used to hang out in the trees and kiss and stuff, whatever. And I don't know. They're in Appalachia. What else you doing? Anyway, he's like, we used to hang out together and I know who she is and I'll go talk to her and figure this out. And Hellboy finds a witch ball, which is usually how they put on curses. Anyway.
Which I've never heard of ever.
I used to watch Supernatural, so I know what a witch ball is.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's why they're assuming we all knew what it was.
Maybe.
They show how they make the witch ball at one point, which is like
which is kind of neat. So there's kind of these like insert pieces where they explain things, which is I kind of like the way that was structured in the movie. And we're making fun of this movie, but there are some good things going on too.
Oh, for sure. I will say this right now. I liked the movie. I enjoyed it. So
I did too. The atmosphere's pretty great, to be honest. So
yeah.
But anyway, so they go to this witch. She's not there, but her skin's there. So they wait for her to come home. She crawls in the window as a raccoon, crawls back in her skin. She's back anyway, whatever. And then they go outside and there's another witch. And this witch is after Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, you've been gone so long. And he's like, I don't know why she doesn't look any older. I've been gone for, 15 years or whatever. And she still looks young and hot.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It rolls up like naked on a horse with
she's wearing like a slip and it's, the moonlight
like
behind
covered
her.
in blood or something.
It's weird. It's okay.
Yeah.
So, anyway, you kind of get this backstory about Tom where Tom had a thing for the one witch. And so she told him how to be a witch. And so Tom found a dead black cat, boiled all the skin off and stuff, and then went and cleaned the bones down in the river. And then when you find your lucky bone, then the devil will show up. And when you see the devil, that's your lucky bone. So this is where they explain the Crooked Man. So Tom's got this bone. I don't remember what part of the cat it is. It looks like a rib or something. I don't know, whatever. He's got this lucky bone. The Crooked Man shows up. And what the Crooked Man is the Crooked Man comes to collect souls for the devil. And he
Mhm.
carries around like a pocket of copper pennies, one for each soul, so he can be a rich man again. He used to be a rich man, and he's trying to be a rich man again. So he
Yep,
collects
yep, yep.
souls for the devil to make back his money. There you go. So Tom has returned. So
Boom.
this
Movie.
witch basically works for the Crooked Man, and she's like, Tom, we're here to collect, you know. And so she ends up taking off this horse's bridle, and it's Tom's dad,
Oh, that
right?
was
That had
like fucked up.
Yeah,
When that
and
happened, I
had
was like,
been like
oh
she had
shit.
been turned him
That's
into a
him.
horse and had been riding him, and he dies, right? So then Tom wants to take his dad up to where the church is to get him to consecrated ground, since he'd been, you know, under this witch's spell for so long. And so they end up at the church, and here we go. Like, the Crooked Man shows up with all of his minions, I guess.
Dude,
And
it gets bananas. Like it starts out
it
with
does.
them in very small scale. Like you said, the setting, the vibe when they're kicking off, when they first stumble upon the witch's house, it's
Mhm.
very creepy, and you're very like, oh, don't go in there. Like this is scary. And then, like you said, they find her skin on the bed, which was, I think, a kind of a cool scene when basically she shows back up as an animal and crawls into the skin and
Yes.
then like slowly fills out this
Yeah.
rubber skin. That was cool, I thought. But like as they eventually the dad dies and he's going to bring the body up there, the reveal of the horse being the dad, I was like, oh shit, is that his dad? And then it shows. So I thought that was a cool moment. Um, but as they're making the journey up the mountain to this church, which, like you said, they're explaining some of these little things and nuances throughout that I thought was interesting, in that they're talking about having to get him to the church for consecrated ground, basically telling us that church grounds are like a safe zone, or should be. And so, but as they're on their journey, like super weird dream state wildness ensues. Like
Yep.
we get a lot more backstory on Hellboy and his mom in this,
Yes.
like that he's got some mom issues and that she essentially was a witch too. And
Checks out.
he was like, what? He was like an immaculate conception, basically from the devil or something like that.
Rosemary's Baby.
Yes, but he like wakes up from these like dreams where he's seeing stuff with his mom, and it's mirroring or is parallel to what this other witch situation is. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Was like,
Yep.
okay, I will say those parts of the movie, for me, I was not expecting that, and was way different than kind of what I had thought, because they didn't really do anything like that in the other Hellboy movies.
Right.
So it was a very different take, but I liked it. I was like, oh, all right, this is kind of cool.
And
Creepy,
we haven't talked
weird.
about it yet, but like Jack, I want to say, I hope it's Kesey, Kesy is his last name. I thought he was really good as Hellboy. I really liked him as like
Yes.
a younger, you know, he still has like the wisecracking attitude, but it's a lot different than the other two. Cause like I like Ron Perlman's Hellboy because he's kind of a wise ass and he's, you know, does his own thing no matter what. David Harbour's Hellboy was more of a goofball, I thought.
Yeah.
Like, he was more comical. This one, he felt more grounded, but he's still like the chain smoking, like wise ass, but also at the same time, because this was small scale and it was like a mission, it wasn't more about like his origin or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it worked better for the character to just be Hellboy, like out in the woods and stuff. Yeah, I liked him as Hellboy a lot. Like, I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Crooked Man shows.
People were posting like this is like Hellboy from Temu, like because it's so low budget. But like you said, I thought he was actually great. I liked his Hellboy a lot.
Yep.
I didn't feel it felt like Hellboy, like in terms of it didn't feel like, oh my gosh, this is a way different take on the character than what we've seen. It was like, oh, he's doing a good job playing the dude. So
yeah, I liked it. Crooked Man shows up. sends digs up all the old people, all the people in the graveyard around the church.
Yeah.
They fight off the zombies in the church. The reverend uses the bone to draw a cross on a shovel, and it sends them all back. I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff going on.
He super powers up a shovel with this light up cross.
Yeah, basically. Anyway, they end up weakening the Crooked Man, so he leaves. He takes off. He flies away, and so Tom's like, I know where he's going. There's a house up in the mountains that that's where he goes. And so Hellboy's like, well, no time like the present. He's got some one-liners that are pretty hilarious in this movie, actually. But so him and Tom go after it. They leave Agent Song with the Reverend in the church. She ends up there's a tunnel. There's an access to the tunnels under the town in the church. It still happens to be there. And they kind of laugh about it a little bit in the movie. At the same time, she goes down there and finds the spider. Whatever. Okay.
Gosh, gross.
Yeah,
it was
gross.
Disgusting.
But Tom and Hellboy go, and they fight the Crooked Man, and he wins.
It was funny that the Hellboy and this lady are in this woods because they lost this giant spider.
Yeah.
And then it turns into a completely different other purpose and journey when they're trying to fight this Crooked Man.
Yep.
Which they end up finding the spider while they're doing that too. So I thought that was just it conveniently found the spider.
Oh, I just happened to find one spider in the Appalachians.
Yeah. Where they say 100 times that the tunnels under the mountain are the veins and arteries of the mountain. So
yeah.
And from what I thought this was going to be, how they originally talked about the movie, it's the Crooked Man and being this creepy guy up in the mountains, it was way different than I thought. I thought it was going to be I don't know, it was way more supernatural, which obviously it's Hellboy and that's going to be a thing, but it wasn't what I was expecting, but I still really enjoyed it.
I did too. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was gonna, obviously. And I think the fact that I liked Hellboy so much is I liked the character. It was great. The original two Hellboys, Ron Perlman was such a random casting when those movies came out, right? When that first movie came out, it was Ron Perlman? Ron Perlman hasn't been relevant for 15 years. And now he's the lead in this high budget Guillermo del Toro superhero movie. Okay, I'll watch it. And then and it's great because he's perfect in that role and he's awesome. Yeah. And then they reboot it and they put David Harbour in that role because David Harbour was hot shit because of Stranger Things. And then it was hard for me with the David Harbour reboot, because it was all I saw was David Harbour.
Yeah.
And so that was hard for me because Ron Perlman was different, because Ron Perlman hadn't done much in a long time. Sons of Anarchy was that around the same time?
Yeah.
And that was all I think that's all he was doing at the time. He had done stuff previously, but he hadn't been big for a long time.
Nobody, I mean, people remember that his character in Blade 2, but no one was oh man, Ron Perlman was good.
Right.
They're he was that guy.
Yeah, he was he was henchman number 3 in Blade 2, or he was in Alien Resurrection, but I mean Ron Perlman was kind of big in the early 90s and stuff, but it had been so long. And now Ron Perlman is Hellboy. Okay,
cool. So he was in Hellboy in 2004, which was before Sons of Anarchy, which was 2008.
That's random. That's even more
random.
He was
in Hellboy before Sons of Anarchy.
That's even more random. That's wild. Anyway, talk back to this movie. I liked Jack Cassidy. I didn't know him from anything. He was Black Tom Cassidy in Deadpool 2. He was Gabriel Bolivar in the Strain TV series, which was something that I read all those books and I started the TV series, but I never finished it because I didn't like the differences.
Is that where they were on a plane and there's an outbreak or something going on?
It's vampirism is a virus.
Okay.
And that's the book. Then Del Toro actually wrote those books.
Oh.
Yeah, he co-wrote him with like Chuck Hogan or something. Anyway,
Dude, speaking of, not to get way off topic, but Del Toro, have you watched his like Cabinet of
yes, I
Curiosities
watched that
on
last year when it
Netflix?
came out. It's awesome.
Fucking great. So
Super
good
for spooky season.
show.
Yeah, you should watch that. Cabinet of
Anyways.
Curiosities. Anyway, like, so I liked most of the acting in this. I wasn't a big fan of Jefferson White as Tom Farrell. It was too, like, he was trying too hard to be a Appalachian or something.
Yeah.
But I liked the witches. The Crooked Man was okay. Like, he was whatever.
Yeah,
he wasn't
right. I thought he was going to be way creepier and
I did too. He was kind of just goofy.
Weird.
But I liked everybody else.
Reminded me more of like Leprechaun from like the Leprechaun movie.
I actually read a review that said like Warwick Davis's taller brother. It actually said that from Leprechaun. You're actually dead on. I mean, that's
exactly the more the vibe I got. I was looking more for the Slender Man is what I wanted.
Yes.
And we got more Leprechaun. So
I think they could have done a theatrical release on this and made the money back. I really do think they could have made $20 million off this.
Yeah.
I guess nobody wanted to distribute it. I don't know. I don't know the reasoning. The reviews are very mixed. It's like 40-something% on Rotten Tomatoes. Right down the middle. I liked it enough that I don't mind that I bought it.
Okay, so that's what I was going to say is I really like I enjoy the Hellboy just like IP. Yeah. And so for me, I wasn't like, oh my God, I've got to pay. Like we've talked about on even like a year ago on our pod of like, oh, this movie's in production. Like this, I'm going to be into that.
Yeah, I'll go see this in the theater. I paid $15. It's basically like buying a movie ticket, whatever.
Yes. But I think actually what could have benefited this more was like if it was a direct stream without having to pay. So like
right to Max Prime, or right to Prime.
Or
yes.
Max. And I agree. It would be, I think maybe the ratings and just general audience score would probably be a lot higher because a lot of people would feel like, oh, we're getting a Hellboy movie that I can watch right now. Like, great. So I think that
I agree with you.
Probably kept
especially with a $20 million budget. I don't understand why it wouldn't just be like a streaming service movie. You know, because I mean, like I think of like Prey on Hulu. It was straight to Hulu. Like if you had Hulu, you could watch Prey right when it came out, and that movie fucking rocked.
Yes, and when that movie dropped, we've talked about this before. Like if you time your release date right, where there's really nothing else going on, it can be a big.
Yeah.
Like when Prey came out, everyone was like, "Oh, we're watching this movie. This movie just dropped. Prey. Go watch it." So
yeah,
I kind of felt like that with Hellboy, but obviously it's because we've been looking forward to it. But I think if they would have just direct release that everyone could watch, that would have been like it would have been talked more about like there's actually a decent Hellboy movie you can go and watch right now if you want. And people probably would have. So.
Yeah, or do a rental. Like you give people the option to rent it.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a good point.
Or do that one or the other. Anyway, didn't dislike this movie whatsoever. I'm gonna give it a 6. Like I would watch it again. It's okay. I like it better than the David Harbour movie. You know I don't like that one.
Yeah,
I like it better. I like the first two obviously a lot better, but that has a lot to do with production budget and stuff. This isn't bad. It's worth a watch. I don't know, like $15. Yeah, I guess.
I think it's a good spooky season movie.
It is. It really is. It fits right in.
This felt way more like a horror movie than any of the others that came out.
100%. This is a horror movie. There's no doubt about it. This is not a superhero film. Yes, this is a horror movie. 100%. Horror movie,
which I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I think if you like Hellboy, it's definitely worth a watch.
Yep.
Obviously, at some point, it will probably be streaming for free. But it's a good Halloween movie. My wife loved it. She thought it was awesome. So, go check it out. Hellboy.
What'd you give it? Did you give it a rating?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna give it a 6. Like
solid.
It's yeah. I wouldn't hate if I had to watch it again. That makes sense. So
yeah, it's like one of those things I have saved now digitally on my Prime Video account, and one day I might just be like, "Oh, I forgot I bought that. I'm gonna watch it again."
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I'm not mad I watched it. I'm not mad I paid for it. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Crooked Man. It's worth a watch. Look at this. Anyway, that takes us into my favorite segment. There can be only 5.
Only 5.
Kyle, you came up with this week's list. We were kind of thinking, like, what would be a good time? We did. You had the exact same thought I did. Like, what if we did low budget horror movies? And it's like, wait a minute, and then it's like 90% of them. So
like
that doesn't
every horror movie is
yeah,
low
that's
budget.
like most of them.
We talked about that.
Most of them are. But anyway, we went with horror movies or franchises that would make a good video game or need to be turned into a video game.
Yeah.
So kind of interesting concept, because there have been some games recently. Like there was a Friday the 13th game that came out a few years ago that was pretty sweet. And then there's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre game that just came out, I think, last year. That's actually a lot of people really like. So, and it's the greatest horror movie of all time, according to Variety. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I thought this was cool. I mean, it's interesting. Maybe we probably should have done this last week when we did the video game movie.
Maybe.
But do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
No, you can. It's your category. You go first.
Okay, so was going over like franchises and just looking at it, and there's a bunch of movies that I think could be fun or cool video games, some of which already have movie or game franchises, but maybe would have gone a different direction. I do not have any honorable mentions, but I have my number 5 horror franchises that should or could be a great video game. I have Saw. So I don't know if you ever played the game Manhunt.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I never played it.
So Rockstar, who makes the Grand Theft Auto games, they had a game come out for the PS2 called Manhunt that is literally basically Saw, but like Grand Theft Auto style gameplay. Like it's getting videoed, people going through like that gory Saw kind of stuff. And it was an awesome game, cult classic. People love that game and they want it back. Saw you could do so many things with that in a video game. I really like, there was a game that came out for the PlayStation at one point called Heavy Rain, which was kind of like Saw. Like basically you have to make choices that are uncomfortable to make, which I think Saw is a great thing. So if you could do...
I have a question.
What's that?
Did you look to see if any of these movie franchises had video games?
I just off the top of my head, I was kind of thinking like, oh, that's already got one or it doesn't. I think maybe Saw does have a video game.
It does. It came out in 2009.
But I never played that, and I'm going in my head what I would want to do with it.
That's totally fine. I just wanted to ask.
But that was one that I was like, oh, I think there might be a game out for it, but I never played it, and I have no idea what it is. But in my head, as a video game, you could do a million things with that. I really like kind of the thoughts of like you have 2 choices and you've got to make one, and it's really painful. Do you want to cut your arm off, or do you want to cut her arm off? Like, and you could do great things.
It's a video game. Cut hers off, duh.
Yes. Number 4 franchises I think could be fucking cool as a video game. Paranormal Activity. Like, hello, you could do. There's a demo that came out forever ago called PT, where it's like you're basically stuck in this infinite loop in a hallway where creepy random things come out or are like messing with you, and you're trying to walk through this house and everything's taken over. And that made me think Paranormal Activity is, as we've talked about, I think just a wicked, awesome kind of horror concept. And then you never have to see anything, but how creepy would it be if you're in your house and things just start falling off and knocking on your window, or you think someone's there? Like, a video game could do so much with that, like in just full creepy settings, VR, things like that. So,
and there are a ton of video games that like fit that mold that are out like in VR or on Steam and stuff that are, indie style. But yes, or having like, that property license to it would be pretty cool.
That's what I was just going to say. Like, there are video games out there that were inspired by or very much directly ripped from some of these. So like you said, it's more of like, you could just slap the actual name tag on it and it would probably be pretty good. And then I've got my number 3. I had Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
Like, cool freaking the things you could do with Nightmare on Elm Street, because
Absolutely.
it's all dream based and everybody's dream is different, and it's all wild. What wild, weird, creepy ways can you get stuck with Freddy Krueger? Like, talk about a cool, you could do a million levels of Freddy Krueger. That could be something. There could be DLC that's just a new dream to play, and
Mm-hmm.
you maybe as like the kids trying to survive through these dreams of Freddy, or even flipping and being Freddy and freaking trying to take these kids out. So
that's one of the cool things that too, like the Friday the 13th video game and the Texas Chainsaw video game, you can play both ways. Like you can play as like the kids, like in the camp, and you gotta get away from Jason, or you can be Jason, you gotta go kill people.
Yeah,
which I always played it that way.
I haven't played the games, but I've watched some videos of it. But I do like it because it's like online multiplayer. So I think you can do couch co-op. But essentially, like you said, like you could be the big heavy brute that's trying to take out 5 other people who are
100%. I'm gonna be Leatherface. Why wouldn't I be?
Yeah, or you could be like those which they totally changed like the power dynamics. Like if you're the kid, like you're clearly strong or not strong, you're slow, those types of things. So but yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street. I thought number 3 could be a fucking awesome horror video game franchise. Number 2, I have Signs.
Cool.
I think Signs, they're very recently, I might have sent you a video of it, but there's like a indie game where it's like it's set on a spooky dark farm where it's essentially like Signs, where it feels like a horror movie, like something is out there, we don't know what's going on, and we're essentially running from an alien invasion. But the way the movie Signs is in the beginning, when it's like creepy, was that someone just standing on the roof in the background, that type of stuff, like what a cool video game. And like we've talked about, I think there's a game that's out there, I don't know what it's called, it's an indie game, but it's basically ripping off Signs. That could be its own thing, the franchise itself. Number 1, I'm a big nerd about the game Subnautica, which is like an underwater submarine game, which is one of the scariest games I've ever played, because if you have that deep sea fear of dark, Subnautica is a game that I go back to all the time. Every year I play it multiple times. My kids think it's cool, the submarine game, but it is fucking horrifying at some points when there's a Leviathan 30 or 3,000 feet underwater meters. It's terrifying. They show up and it screams in your ear. It makes you want to pee your pants. But that made me think, what cool game could be with Jaws. Jaws as a horror game.
100%.
Like, if let's say you're on the boat, you're creepy, dark, like, I'm talking water that you don't want to get in. Like, if you fall in, you know you're gonna get taken. Like, what a cool video game that could be, whether you're out being hunted by this big giant creepy sea monster shark, or maybe like kind of like the movie where you're inland and it's the beach and this thing is like taking people out. Like, I thought for whatever reason, like you could do so much stuff with that. And I think people would eat that shit up. Like, I would fucking love a Jaws video game. Anyways, Jaws is my number 1 horror franchise video game. Curveball.
I like it. Okay. I'll just get right to it. So at number 5, I had Halloween. We've got a Friday the 13th video game, got a Texas Chainsaw video game. Like, why not? Why can't we have a Halloween video game? Because I'm thinking, like, I haven't played the Texas Chainsaw video game yet, but I've played the Friday the 13th one. And the biggest issue with that was it was independent, and then like the studio closed. So a lot of like the extra stuff you couldn't do anymore because it kind of got shut down. But it was cool because like you could be Jason and you're walking around this camp, and it's like iconic camps from the movies, right? And you're trying to find these kids and murder them basically. But like, what if you could do that like in Haddonfield? And as
Dude.
Michael Myers, like going in backyards and around houses.
Oh,
and like,
yeah, finding cool
dude,
ways to hide
sign
and
me.
kill.
Yes, sign me
Yeah.
up. Sign me up. All about that. So I had Halloween at number 5.
I think that would be cool also being like, how terrifying would that feel if you were playing like a character, just a weak human who
Yes.
is running from this unstoppable juggernaut that's just walking, but you
Yep.
still can't get away. You're tripping over stuff. Give me that game.
Yeah,
That'd be
exactly. I think it'd be super fun. And then at number 4, similar but different, I had Scream at number 4. The biggest thing about like the Scream franchise when it comes to slashers is like every Scream is different people. Like it's always Ghostface, but it's always a different killer.
Who done
So
it?
it could be like a who done it. You've got to try and figure out who the killer is. Like, what if it was a game where there's like you start out with like 6 people and you have to figure out who the killer is before everybody dies, right? Like that kind of thing. Thought that would be kind of neat. With horror elements, like you play as the different characters, you've got to try and survive and try and figure out who the killer is. I thought that would be kind of cool, especially with like they're still making Scream movies, so it's still plenty relevant. So I had Scream at number 4. That's number 3. Great. I had Jaws at number 3. Oh yeah, I remember the Jaws video game for like the old NES, and it was kind of dumb. But I was on the exact same page as you are. I haven't played Subnautica yet, no matter how many times you've told me, because I always think about like that would freak me the shit out because I don't like deep water. I would have a big issue with like a Jaws game, like this friggin' giant shark just comes up out of a freaking behind a rock or something and just blah, 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 gobbles you up, you know. That'd be a good idea though. So I had that at number 3. And number 2, I had A Nightmare on Elm Street for all the reasons you said. Like, you could do so much. Freddy Krueger is such a badass character. You can do everything. Like, you could have different stages where it's different things from the movies, where it's these different dream scenarios. You could do so much with it, just like you said. You could have DLC. You could do, like, end boss fight. You bring Freddy back into the real world, and you have to fight him in, like, his own boiler room.
Dude, yes.
It'd be so cool. I think that would be great.
You could do a freaking bonus level with Jason. You know, if Jason comes in, have him cross over, do Mortal Kombat battle.
Dude, it'd be badass. I would totally be on board with that. And then at number 1, I got a bit of a curveball here. Like, could you imagine a survival alien isolation type video game set in Jurassic Park?
Oh, dude.
Like, so we talk about, like, you remember like the Jurassic Park arcade games where you're like sitting in the thing and you got the gun, like how cool those were. But I'm talking like a survival type horror game where you're like on Isla Nublar, dude, or Isla Sorna. You're like in the abandoned like old factory where they used to make the dinosaurs, the genetics lab, and like you're getting stalked by T-Rex or raptors or, you know, Dilophosauruses or even the Spinosaurus. Like that would be pretty freaking badass.
Dude, there is a video game that's in development that is, it's going to come out next year, maybe even a year from now. It's been taking forever. It's a first-person survival horror game. It's called The Lost Wild, and it is literally what you just said. Badass. It's a game that I'm so excited about.
That's badass. It's
basically about being in the wild in complete terror. I'll have to send you the trailer. But it's a horror game of like terrifying dinosaurs, just like the book vibes kind of feel.
Yeah, because you had talked about how you would ask me like about Jurassic Park, like the book versus the movie, and I told you like the book's freaking scary. Like it's not that movie's made for families. That book is made for grown-ups that want to get scared. Yeah. And so after I told you that, I went back and I listened to it again because it had been years since I'd read the book.
Oh, nice.
And then I went and listened to The Lost World.
Oh, I've not listened to the second one.
The second, so is different.
Is it like the movie?
Not at all.
Oh,
most of the characters in the book aren't even in the movie.
Oh, I love
it's completely different.
Now I'm locked in.
The plot's not even remotely the same. There's no rival corporation or rival person trying to make a theme park in San Diego to take dinosaurs to go. That's nothing. That's not even part of it. Nothing to do with it. It's totally different.
I've got my next book. Thank you.
Yeah. So Lost World, like that kind of crap would be terrifying.
Dude, I'm sending you this trailer right now because I think you'll think it's awesome. But like, what a great concept that is. And what's even cooler is that we're actually getting a game that's like that at some point.
That's badass. I'm going to check it out. Anyway,
nice. Okay,
I like your list.
Your list. Oh, yeah. Look at that.
I'm surprised you had Jaws. I like that one though because I was.
God, I just think like, which actually there is a survival horror shark game that is. It's very much an indie project, but I've watched a couple like YouTube videos of people reacting to it because it's like basically you get stuck underwater and you're trying to get back up and there's a fucking shark that's trying to eat you. It's like horror game. So anyways, nice. All right. What do we got next?
Okay. So this week's How Rotten Is Your Tomato? It's Kyle's turn to guess. So I tried to do spooky movies. And maybe there's a little Hellboy mixed in there as well.
Nice. Right. Bring it on.
All right. I got 5 sets for you. Are you ready?
Let's go.
All right. In honor of Terrifier 3's opening weekend, I went with some killer clowns. So I have 2017's It Chapter 1 versus 2022's Terrifier 2.
It's higher. I'll have it as probably an 84, maybe 85. And then Terrifier 2, I'm going to give like a 78.
It is lower.
Of course.
At 85.
I should have known that was a 7.
At 85.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
And Terrifier 2 is an 87.
Fascinating.
It is fascinating.
That is interesting.
Yeah. All right.
Nice.
2 similar movies that came out a year apart. The torture porn type of horror movie, if you will. I have 2005's Hostel.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. I love that movie.
Versus 2004's Saw.
Oh, Hostel. I know you did not enjoy that movie, but I actually thought it was an awesome horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say Saw because it's obviously like a franchise. It's like the Fast and the Furious of horror movies. Like there's a million of them. Saw is going to be higher. And Saw 1 was actually really good. I'm going to put Saw at like 81. And I'm going to put, like 71. I'm going to put Hostel as like a 45 because I don't think a lot of people liked it other than
Hostel was higher.
Oh, shocking.
Right. At a 59. 59.
Holy moly.
Saw was a 50.
Oh my God. Saw was that bad, huh?
Yeah, the original Saw was a 50.
Man, I guess that end of the movie shocker didn't shock everybody.
Should have gave it a 10% raise right there. I mean,
yeah, like what a great ending. Wow, that is a surprise.
Yeah.
Okay,
all right.
I'm 0 for 2.
Halloween 1978.
Okay.
Versus Halloween from 2018.
Ooh. Okay, so Halloween in 2018 was obviously everybody knows about the franchise, so people were excited about it and people really liked it, so they made more of them. When the original one came out, though it's regarded as a cult classic now, not cult classic, but just a classic horror movie. At the time, it was new, and I think people didn't know what they were seeing. So I'm going to say the newer one is higher. I'm going to give the newer one an 80. And I'm going to give the original one a 75.
The 2018 newer one is lower.
Oh, shit. You perfectly set me up with all these.
I did set you up with that one. At a 79. So you were close on the guess because you said 80. The 1978 original Halloween is a 96%.
Holy shit. I did
Mhm.
not know that. So I was way
Mhm.
off when people actually
were.
loved it when it came
Yes.
out.
Yes.
Wow.
All right. Two
Damn.
more.
I can't remember the last time I watched the original. Like, it's been a long time since I've
It's
watched
only
the
been
original
a
Halloween.
couple of years for me, probably 2 or 3 years.
I gotta go back. All right, bring
All
it
right. 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street versus the greatest horror movie of all time,
on.
1974's Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Wow. Well, because I know you, and you're always going to do something that sets up the thing you like better. I'm going to say A Nightmare on Elm Street is higher at a 74. And what was it? What was the other one again?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Number
Okay,
one
greatest
on
movie.
Variety's horror movies of all time.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think people thought it was terrifying, but I don't think people thought it was like good. Like, terrifying movie, not a good movie. I'm gonna give it a 69, lower.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre is lower.
All right, let's go.
Because it should be at a very robust 84%.
Oh, that's actually a lot better than I
thought.
The
original Nightmare on Elm Street is a 95.
Oh, get out of here! A 95.
95.
I got to go back and watch that again.
No, it's a good movie.
I really got to knock out some of these classics that I haven't seen.
Yeah. All right, and then in honor of tonight's movie.
Oh, nice. One more.
2004's Hellboy versus 2008's Hellboy 2, The Golden Army.
I feel like the world really liked number 2. I actually like number 1 way better. I thought number 1 was better. So I'm going to go with what I would have done. I would have Hellboy 1 ranked higher at an 85. It's a good, solid movie. And Hellboy 2, the Golden Army, I thought was like, meh, it's a 75. That's what I would do.
Hellboy 2, higher.
I knew it. I told you. As I said, everybody liked it better.
At an 86.
Wow.
And the original Hellboy from 2004 was an 81%.
Oh. Do you think that's right?
Yes.
Really? You like the second one better?
It's a better movie.
Wow, I just thought the characters were more interesting in the first one. I did think his like sniveling about his ex-girlfriend was a little bit much.
Yeah.
The second one didn't feel like they were like solely focusing on his breakup.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the first one better than I like the second one. But
I think they're both good. And obviously they're close.
Actually,
I think they're close in quantity.
Quick reminder, folks, for those who are in a Hellboy mood, there is a sequel to The Golden Army and the original Hellboy. There's an animated movie with all of the same actors voicing their characters. So if you really want to continue that Hellboy series, you can go watch that movie if you haven't.
Great plan. All right. So that's it. Those are my...
Okay. Love that. I got all of them wrong except one.
Except for one. You got 4. You got 1 out of 4. 5. 1 out of 5. It's not very good.
I feel like all of yours were very much like I should have just been like, I'm going to do what it very clearly looks like you're setting me up for, but I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with my gut.
Every time.
I'm going to go with what I think they should be.
Oh, I wanted to give you an update. I think I told you, so we talk about 1994, right? 30 years ago in the movies that came out in 1994.
Oh, yep.
A lot. So Rotten Tomatoes, I told you about it. They're doing like a bracket style greatest movies of 1994.
Oh yeah.
So
where are we at?
They're down to the final 4. And some of the matchups I was kind of irritated by, but the final 4, I think they got it right. So the first semifinal matchup is Forrest Gump versus Pulp Fiction.
Oh, okay.
And the second semifinal matchup is The Lion King versus Shawshank Redemption. 4 big hitters.
That's tough if they would have been flipped around like it might have been a little bit different, you know?
Yeah. I think it's going to end up being Pulp Fiction versus Shawshank in the final. That's what it looks like.
I think
you're right. Looks like based on the way people are voting. So
I think you're right there.
And I think those are probably the right 2 movies to have 2 is the final. So,
well, as someone who's only recently
know.
went back and really watched Pulp Fiction, it's a good freaking movie.
Great movie.
It's a good movie. So
it's a great movie. Anyway, that brings us to the end of episode 63 of the Movie Dads podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, click that like and subscribe. Make sure you click that bell to get notifications on when new episodes come out, which is on Wednesdays. I won't tell you what time because we're not getting paid. And if you're not watching us on YouTube, you can find us on many podcast networks such as Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, among many, many others.
We're on Audible, by the way, where I listen to my audiobooks.
I guess it would be Amazon. That's Amazon, right? Yeah, that's Amazon. Yeah. It would be Audible. Yeah, that makes sense.
Popped up, was like, we're fish. We're official. So anyways.
Yeah, no, that's nice. Anyway, I like it. And then you can see some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We're back next week, episode 64, our last spooky season movie, the James Gunn, written and directed, cult classic, Kyle's Never Seen, starring Guy Gardner himself, Nathan Fillion, and Rowdy, what's his name? Rowdy Yates? Is that right? Michael Rooker? Rowdy what?
Rowdy Burns.
Rowdy Burns. Michael Rooker. Whatever.
Rowdy Burns.
Rowdy Burns.
Wait a minute. There's a movie with Rowdy Burns and Nathan Fillion? What are we talking about here?
Directed? Slither.
Oh, Slither. Yes. No, I have not seen it.
It's awesome.
I didn't even realize that those were who was in it and that it was a James Gunn movie. Okay. Bring it on. I'm in.
Yeah. It's a good movie.
I'm all in.
Yeah. What's it from? It's from 2006.
Okay.
Yeah. What a classic.
Back before James Gunn was a silver-haired fox.
Yeah. You probably still had brown hair. You're right.
Yeah, I don't think I was there.
Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.
Bye.